and whippoorwill call. And even is night, I hurry to my blue heaven.
G'day and welcome to My Blue Heaven. It's a Wednesday evening. Not so much here to speak about the weekend's game, although I did think it was a really commendable performance by the boys against the reigning Premier, who are just a really solid and well-drilled football team, aren't they? They took us to the sword in that, or put us to the sword in that second quarter. What I liked about our performance, though, we were undermanned, but we fought back. And I think if you look back 12 months ago, that margin would have blown out to anywhere between 80 to 100 points. So to get it back to 4 goals was a really good performance by our team. And I think a lot's been said about the performance, and it's been a consistent theme so far under the tutelage of David Teague that our team is really up for the fight under any circumstances. So I think that's a positive. Although it was a loss, it's a positive. Look forward to the last 3 weeks. But what the last 3 weeks does, it almost opens up the silly season for the Carlton Football Club. And there's a lot of rumours going around about the bloody cat's in the way. A lot of rumours going around about who's going to come into the club. Canelio, Brad Hill, Tom Papley. There's a number of players' names have been bandied around, but I don't want to really get into that at this stage. That will play out. I want to start to look at the players who won't be at the Carlton Football Club this year or next year, and that's always a really sensitive and difficult decision for the football club. We don't like to see players leave the club, but at the end of the day, the list needs to be turned over. There's still a number of holes. Our depth has improved, but it still needs to get better. And I think the beauty of a list and the strength of a list is indicated by players who are playing at VFL level who other clubs would be interested in taking. And maybe trading for them and getting something for them if they're not getting senior opportunities. And at this stage, I know we have some injuries, and that's why the weekend's performance was so good. But if you look at our VFL team at the moment, you would not say that there's any players in there that other clubs would be lining up to maybe steal from us or offer us a draft pick for. So that is a little bit of a concern. So this episode's about quickly sort of thinking, or for me, who's not going to be at the club next year. Now, I think there's some certainties who will come as no surprise. So I think, these players' papers were stamped probably a month after David Teague took over. They just didn't get opportunities. They're not probably going to get opportunities for the rest of the year. And they won't be at the football club next year. So the three that there were dead set certainties, as far as I'm concerned, are Kim LeBoyce, Jared Garlett and Matthew Lobey. I think those three speak for themselves. LeBoy's been on the list 3 years as a rookie now. I don't think he's going to be upgraded to the primary list. I just don't think he's developed. He's had his injuries. I know he's injured again at the moment, so there's no even certainty that he'll play the final games for the Northern Blues. Garlett's been a huge disappointment as far as I'm concerned. He was tried as a defender, as a forward. He's had opportunities, a lot of opportunities that probably other players of his ilk, I suppose. He's got ability. He just doesn't bring, I suppose, the required intensity to the table. With a club, a young team who are crying out for talented players to come in and have an impact, he's been, to me, a real disappointment. So he won't be at the club next year. And unfortunately for Matthew Lobey, age has caught up with him and opportunities have caught up with him. I know he's been there as a backup, but I think time is now for Matthew Lobey to move on. So that brings me to a couple of other players that I don't think will be at the club next year. I'm going to start with Patrick Kerr. This might come as a little bit of surprise to some. It's not that I don't think that Patrick Kerr hasn't got ability. I just don't think he's going to have the opportunities at our football club. We've got a lot of key position talent. There's no way he's going to get a game before the likes of Harry, who's had a really good, consistent season now, building up some really good form. Obviously, Charlie's injured. Mitch McGovern's going to come back and hopefully make an impact. We've got Levi. So I just don't think where young Patrick Kerr is going to fit in. He's been on the list now for 3 seasons. He's only managed, I think, the 3 games last year, no games this season. He's out at the moment with a shoulder injury. I think the club will offer him up for trade. My feeling is that there won't be any suitors. We will not get anything for him. We won't know his delisting, I think, until after the trade period. Then he'll be obviously open for other clubs to take as a delisted free agent or even as a rookie. Disappointing for Patrick Kerr. Showed a little bit, but I just don't think he showed enough to keep him on a list for an extra year. The other one I think will go at the end of the year is Darcy Lang, out of contract, first round draft pick with the Cats. I feel sorry for Darcy Lang because I think his body's let him down. He's lost that explosive power he had as an under-18 footballer. His ankles, he's unable to go into the midfield because of his body. That's my point of view anyway. He's had a good block of games, 6 games under David Teague. Thought he was bitterly disappointing on the weekend. He's kicked, I think, 4 goals, but he only averages something like 7 disposals a game over those 6. 6 shots on goal. I think he's kicked 4-2. I just can't see him at the club next year. And to be out of contract, I know he's in that really nice age bracket, the 24, 25-year-old, but I just don't think where his opportunities are going to come on. And I think it'd be a massive risk to take on someone whose body has come under question next year. So that is Darcy Lang, Patrick Kerr, Matthew Lobey, Kim LeBoy, and Jarrod Gala. That's 5 players. Now let's think, we've had 52 list changes over a 4-year period under Stephen Silvani. That was a cat that just went past the camera there, and there it goes again. They're mad, these cats here at my house. 52. So there was 15 when Sauce first came in, 12 in his second year, 13 in 2017, and then 12 again last year. We haven't had a trade since Bryce Gibbs. I think we're going to really try and consolidate with our list this year. So it's going to be anywhere between maybe 8 to 10, maybe more towards maybe 8. And it's going to be very difficult because there's a few little problems we have. So I've chosen 5 who I think will not be there. So I'm looking for 3 more. And this is where it becomes really difficult because we have a couple of players on our primary list who are contracted, who I think are not going to get a lot of opportunities. One is Cam Paulson, who he started the year in the seniors, or he had a couple of games early on. He didn't play the Richmond game, and his form at VFL level is just putrid. And the smart thing would be to pay out his contract, but I don't think that's possible. So he's going to remain at the club next year. He signed a 2-year deal last year to remain at the club. The other one is Harrison McCready, who seems to have gone backward. He's contracted for next year as well. I can't see where his opportunities. He had that 1 game this year. His form in the VFL has been really disappointing, but he will remain next year. And the other one is Tom Williamson. Now, that's a mystery. He's back ailment. He's got another year to run on his contract. We know how much of a talent he is, and hopefully we can back, or we'd like to think we can back in our medical staff and Andrew Russell to get to Tom Williamson right. So I think he's worth taking a risk on and keeping at the club. And obviously those 3 boys are contracted, but it's up in the air whether they're going to be playing much senior football next year anyway. So that makes it difficult. And then the other 3 boys who I don't think the club probably banked on being here next year, Levi Casbolt, Daisy Thomas, and probably Simo, who all the 3 of them have had really consistent seasons to the point of now Daisy deserves a contract. There's no doubt that Daisy will get an extension for a year. Simo has said that he'd like to play on next year. Now, I'm under the impression, I think that David Teague will be the coach of the Carlton Football Club next year. I'm 95% sure. And I reckon David Teague will want Simo at the club next year. And Levi's form has been, he was a little bit down on the weekend. His form has been, over the last, say, 8 weeks since he went down back and then came forward, has been as good as anyone at the football club. So how is that going to play out? Will another club come along? Levi's out of contract. Will another club come along and say, look, we'll give you 2 years at 29 years of age, or will he accept a year contract at the Carlton Football Club? I'd be surprised if another club came along and offered Levi two years, but you never know. He was really impressive as a big key defender. So that's going to be interesting to see how those play. So at this stage, I'm suggesting them three will be at the club next year. So that leaves the uncontracted players. And this, to me, I'm just racking my brains to think who will not be at the club next year. I'm saying 8 players won't be, about 8. And I've only come up with 5. I've come up with Kerr, Lobie, LeBoyce, Lang, and Garland. So we've got to find 3 more. I suggest 3 more, possibly 4 more. I think Phillip stays out of contract. I think he's shown enough to suggest he'll be the backup ruckman next year, with a cloud over Matthew Cruz's ability to play a full season. Shoemaker's an interesting one. Second year at the football club, played his first game on the weekend and showed a little bit. I think he'll stay. I think they've put a lot of work into him. So I think Angus Shoemaker will stay. Marchbank, who's still out of contract, will stay. Jack Silvani is a no-brainer now. I mean, mid-year, was he going to look for opportunities elsewhere? But I think his form in the second half of the year suggests he'll be at the football club next year on a 2-year contract, possibly. And then Michael Gibbons and Nick Newman are the 2 others out of contract. Gibbo will be on the primary list, hopefully before the year's out, with a couple-of-year contract. And Nick Newman, who's been, a revelation for the whole year. I mean, he's had his ups and downs, but, he's been a consistent performer. So he's going to be at the football club next year as well. And then the other boys who are out of contract, Liam Jones, David Cunningham, and Ed Kerner have all signed contracts. So that leaves a handful of players who I think are on the cusp of not being here next year. So, okay, let's go through them quickly. Hugh Goddard. I have my big reservations about Hugh Goddard, but I think with Kerr going, if I think Kerr goes, I think they keep Goddard. He's on the rookie list, out of contract, but I think they'll keep him. I think. But I wouldn't be surprised if he goes, but I think they'll keep him. I think his form at VFL level was sensational. He was consistent. He's popular. He's hardworking. And he's had his injury concerns over the journey. So, but I worry about his pace. And once again, opportunities, but I think it's insurance. He's in the system now. He's at the football club. They know what they're going to get out of him. I think he remains. I'm not 100% sure on Hugh Goddard, but I think he remains. So it leaves, okay. To me, this hurts, okay. I think Josh DeLuca is not going to be offered a contract next year. Unless he somehow explodes in the last 3 games and shows a little bit more. I love him. Don't get me wrong. I love his enthusiasm, what he brings to the table. But we've got to open up some spots on our list. And I just don't think he has the skill set to be a long-termer for us. I think he can add some reasonable depth at VFL level and as a pinch come in as a senior player, but as a pinch. So I'm saying no for Josh DeLuca, okay? It hurts, but I'm saying no to Josh DeLuca. Matthew Kennedy is an interesting one. I have my doubts about Matthew Kennedy on a number of levels. I don't know whether that role for him is sustainable at this level. Will he be shopped around out of contracts? I think he'll be at the club next year. But I still have my reservations with Matthew Kennedy, but I think he'll be at the club next year. But so he stays. But I wouldn't be surprised if the club don't shop him around. That's just what I think. So that leaves Matthew Cottrell on the rookie list. Now, I'm assuming Matthew Owies is on the rookie list as a Category B, and he showed some real development as a former basketballer. I think he's shown some real development as a small forward. I just think it'd be ludicrous to get rid of him now. So I'm thinking he stays. So that leaves Matthew Cottrell. And sort of help me out here. I'm hearing good things from Matthew Cottrell at VFL level, that he's developed quite nicely and even on the verge of senior selection. So I don't know. I say no, probably no to Matthew Cottrell as well. And the final player that I think won't be at the Carlton Football Club next year is the former Pie, Alex Fasolo. Now, I think there's a misunderstanding out there that Fasolo signed a 3-year contract. I'm led to believe that it was he signed just the 1-year deal with a trigger for his second year. And that trigger was based on the amount of games he was able to play this year. At this stage, it's only 3. He played the first 2, and I think he may have played again against the Bombers mid-year. I might be incorrect there. So I don't think Alex Fasolo will be at the club next year. I know that he's in the perfect age bracket to have around the club, but I just don't think he's done enough. And I don't think he is what we need going forward. So I would not expect him to be at the Carlton Football Club in 2020. So there's my 8 players who will not be at Carlton in the first official year under the tutelage of David T. It's interesting, isn't it? That's assuming that the club want to keep Paulson, they want to keep McCready, and they want to keep Tom Williamson. So, going to be interesting, Bluebat. It's going to be interesting over the next 4 to 5 weeks. Soon as our season finishes home and away, we're straight into it, aren't we? We'll get some delistings early. Then we'll have to wait through the trade period to see if we have any suitors from other clubs for some of our players. I mentioned Bryce Gibbs is the last trade we had from a couple of years ago. We haven't traded for quite a while. Is there a possibility that one of our youngsters from interstate might want to go home? Who knows? I mean, that's up in the air as well. I wouldn't have thought so. We've worked hard on this list to build it. Players are gradually sort of starting to find their feet and get games under their belt. I reckon this is going to be one of the most interesting off-seasons that we've ever had. Obviously, hopefully David T gets his opportunity to coach his team going forward. But we need to keep turning this list over. I think it's an exciting time for us. I think there's some really positive signs, but we still need to be proactive and brave and make some really, really difficult decisions. I'd love to know your thoughts on who stays, who goes out of those boys that I mentioned. I hope I haven't missed anyone out. I don't think I have. I think I covered just about everyone out of contract. And please don't say I'll just get rid of Cam Paulson because he's a dud, because I just don't think there's a possibility that the club are going to pay his contract out and they'll list him. Maybe I'm wrong. So please subscribe if you like these videos. Looking forward to the big game against the Tigers on the weekend. I reckon we're a sneaky chance against the Tigers. A few changes, maybe big Matthew Cruiser coming back. Mitch McGovern apparently is looking trim and terrific. Love to see him back up forward. So very exciting time for the Carlton Football Club. Then we finish off with the Sainers. Big game at the MCG, then the Cats down at GMHBA Stadium. I'll see you again shortly on My Blue Heaven.